Well, to talk to us a little bit more about this, we're now joined by people opposing tax abuse, Outa's Wayne Duvenage. Wayne, thanks very much indeed for joining us. The government and economists often say that the cost of fuel has gone up, A, because of international crude prices and the weakening of the rand. But you have another take.
Yes, well, I think if we go back in time, what we've seen is the government has continuously pushed up these petrol levies, road accident fund, and other levies, by the way. And if you combine them over the last 10 years, there's been over 125% increase just in these levies alone. And this starts to add up. You don't notice the 20 cents per litre on the fuel levy and another 15 cents on the road accident fund every year. But those are quite, high increases relative to the time, and over a decade it starts to add up. So now we have a situation of 10 rand of the petrol price is made up of levies, fuel levies, and other levies, and then only the basic fuel price has been about 50% of that. And when you have this increase or these changes to the exchange rates and the international oil prices, it starts to hurt us very, very hard. But the interesting thing, Peter, is last year the average dollar exchange rate was around 16 rand to the dollar. It's been averaging in this financial year, we say from April to now, at 14 rand 66. So if it was worse off, it was at last year's average, we'd be another rand on top. We'd be over 21 rand per litre. So what has really hit us this year is the average oil price has gone up to $73 per barrel from $41 last year. You combine that with these incessant, continuous increases in the fuel levies, and we have a very, very expensive situation for not only motorists, but for the for all goods that are moved by road.
All right, and you talk about the price of fuel now, crude oil, 70 plus, but 2011 it was as high as $109. So there's definitely an equation in between that we perhaps don't pay attention to.
Well, exactly. In fact, the average for the year ending in 2012, March 2012, was 114 rand per dollar, per barrel, sorry, $114 per barrel. But at the same time, our rand was strong then. People wanted to do business with us. We were trading at 7 rand 41 cents. So it's a combination now. It's a double whammy. And as you say, the price of oil now is lower than what it was. And imagine if it gets there and the rand dollar exchange rate is where it was last year. Well, we would be in big, big trouble. I think what we've got to do is understand that government's economic policy makes unfavorable trading conditions with South Africa, and that's why we have a weak rand. And we can do nothing about the international oil price, but it's been a lot higher than this. So yeah, we're in trouble.
So are you saying that government mismanagement is a contributing factor? Because as you say, it weakens the rand on the one hand, and then on the other, they try to get revenue to boost the fiscus by all these levies.
Yeah, exactly. So bad policy making around economics combined with this insatiable desire to keep hitting soft targets, motorists being one, and that adds up. So we now have this petrol levy that pushes another 85 billion rand per annum into the government's coffers, unring fenced. That's just the fuel levy, when that just over 10 years ago was around 25 billion rand. So yeah, you add all of that up, and it creeps up on us. Now, we've got bigger problems when people start converting to electric vehicles, because this revenue will dry up. There are manufacturers overseas that in the next few years are not going to be making petrol-driven vehicles. And this is the problem with short-termism thinking about government. They're not thinking what is going to happen to these various revenue streams in the next 10 years. They're thinking these 5-year cycles just to make it through to the next election round. And that's bad for this country.
All right. So just to be straight, are we saying that over time, these levies, these extra levies that are loaded, they never come down? Even if the petrol price comes down, even if the rand goes up, those levies stay and increase over time only?
Exactly. So, Peter, that's an interesting point. And we saw right at the start of COVID last year, petrol prices dropped right down to almost zero. They were paying you to take petrol. Now, that's an unusual situation, but imagine that happens, or imagine the rand strengthens and the oil price comes right down. Well, you're not going to pay anything less than 10 rand, because that is what the price of the levies are right now. So basic fuel prices can come right down, but we are stuck. We are beholden by Treasury's desire for these additional levies. Some of it's wholesale levies, some of it's retailer levies, but the bulk of it is in the road accident fund. And again, that has been mismanaged. So again, mismanagement by government on how it manages the road accident fund, the fuel policies that they continuously increase, and a weak policy in economic matters. And we have these high fuel prices, and they're not going to go away, I'm afraid.
So what do we do as citizens? Because as motorists, we always focus on the rand and the crude oil price, and we don't pay attention to these levies that we're getting hit by. I almost feel like we are being abused.
We are. And I think this is where we've got to start putting pressure on government. So we have written to the minister in the midterm budget policy statements. And again, we will, as he prepares for the February budget speech, we're asking the minister, as we have asked them in the past, please, can you consider no increases to fuel levies for a while? No increases. You're already getting so much from motorists and consumers. I mean, taxis, consumer goods moved across road because our rail is so, and it's another factor that feeds into it. Rail is being decimated as a form of transporting goods, so everything goes by roads, which is toll fees and petrol levies and so on. So all of this adds up to the cost of living in this country, making us uncompetitive. And we've got to appeal to the state and government to no more increases in these fuel levies. You have pushed this envelope right to the edge now. You cannot suck any more out of the consumer when it comes to fuel prices. So where you can, stop increasing these taxes, and also go back to the retailers who also continuously ask for increases to their section on a CPI plus. We should be questioning every increase in government to say, on what basis are you asking for increases, even if it's CPI related? Why can't you go and find efficiencies? Why can't you go and reduce the costs, the losses, the corruption, and the maladministration? That's where you'll get your money going forward, Mr. Government. But don't come and ask us for more money in these taxes and levies while your bucket is leaking. We've got to put pressure on government when it comes to these budget policies to change their attitude about just thinking that, well, increases is a natural way of running a country. It isn't.
So what does Finance Minister Godongwana do in the interim? Because the economy is shot, less people are paying tax, companies are not paying tax as much as they could because business is bad. So this is the only thing they can do in the short term.
Well, they've got to find greater efficiencies, and I'm pleased to hear the minister speaking about innovative processes and ways we can do business. I'll give you an example. We are meeting with the NRCS, the National Regulatory for Standards and compliance in this country. And there are gross inefficiencies that are suffered by business as a result of these letters of authorization to just bring goods into this country. And they're only touching 10% of them. 90% of goods are sold without any compliance authorization. Stuff gets into the country under the radar screen. Illegal stuff, dangerous goods get into the country. We've got so many inefficiencies. That's just one area that I think if government takes engaging with civil society more seriously to find solutions to gross inefficiencies and maladministration in this country, I think we'll be able to reduce the cost of government, make it easier to do business, and we won't have to rely on continuous tax increases. And when you do that, companies start investing in this country. There are companies that have pulled out of this country. Jobs have been lost because of these gross inefficiencies, where businesses just say, look, South Africa, you're 1% of our production line. We really don't need this nonsense. We're not holding back on the production of new latest technology goods, while your country takes so long to authorize the approvals of goods to come into your country. So really, we will close down our businesses in that country and you will lose jobs. And you just read earlier on the unemployment rates going up. This is a culmination of very archaic, outdated, inefficient processes within government that leads to a multiple of factors that makes us a very expensive country to do business in. We can get rid of that, but we need the Minister of Finance and we need government departments to modernize, to get more efficient, to take out the waste, improve productivity, get the compliance levels right, and get the people into jobs that match the needs of those jobs.
Yeah, and just to prove your point, I guess, when we compare petrol prices in South Africa with 10 other countries in the region, only Zimbabwe is higher than us. Everybody else is significantly less. And I suppose that speaks volumes to all of those costs in between.
Yeah, and a lot of that petrol gets shipped across our roads into Botswana, Namibia, and into those countries. So there's additional transport costs to get it there. But look, let's face it, they don't have the highways and the networks and the infrastructure that we have. But nonetheless, there's a lot of truth in what you're saying. And I think we need to unpack it, and government now needs to start working closer with business and civil society to find the solutions, as opposed to their attitude and approach of, well, you guys work for us, and we'll dictate and lay the laws and lay the policies down, and you must just pay and follow. That's a recipe for where we sit today, which is an inefficient, bloated country that people don't necessarily want to do business with. It's getting more and more expensive, and we're becoming uncompetitive. And our brothers north of our borders are starting to eat our lunch. We need to get efficient as a government if we're going to take this country and unleash the prosperity that we are so entitled to and so deserving of, and the prosperity that we have so much potential for. We just waste it because of these inefficiencies.
Wayne Duvenage, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed. Always great talking to you. Thanks for the food for thought.
Thank you. All the best, Peter.
Oh, thank you. All right, that's Wayne Duvenage from Outa speaking to us about the fuel price hikes as of midnight tonight. And we seem to be paying much higher than a lot of our neighbours. For example, in August, in South Africa, we were paying 18 Rand or something per litre. And in Namibia, it was as low as 13. And in Angola, albeit an oil-producing country, 3 Rand per litre.